We're gonna call the meeting to order. If anybody pops in, we'll just, welcome them. So I'm gonna go through attendance. So there's Bill Boudry, Mike McLean, Maureen Hickey, me, Gail Siebert, Charlie Tukoski, Sam Elliott. So we're missing Matt, who I know isn't going to show up, Harold, Sarah Fowler, and Paula. That's who's out. Was Steve planning on joining?
No.
Okay.
Steve has a some sort of, I think, economic or finance committee. He has another meeting as part of this. He may end up joining a little bit later.
Okay, that's fine. So let's go on to item. Oh wait, do I have to do anything to vote to call the meeting to? Okay. I still haven't.
You have to just ask if there are any guests, anybody from the public who wants.
Oh, does anybody from the public? Okay, there is nobody from the public. Let's see. Okay, so let's just go into item 3 then, the Wakefield's Renter Assistance Program, the RAP. So Sam, give us an update. How much have we given out?
Sure. So it's around, I think it's over 15,000 now. Let me get the exact number. It'll take a second just to pull into the network. But I had 2 applications in 2025. So we have 2 new people, and there'll be some additional funds that'll be added to this list. But right now we're at $18,022.12 that has been awarded.
Nice. And to how many people? How many families or units or?
Yeah, hold on. That is out of, so we've had 9 applications that have been approved. I have more that are pending, people to get additional paperwork in. And I think 2 of those have not had any funds yet. Just 2 of them haven't had any funds dispersed at this point. Everybody else has. But there'll be some additional funds. There's another rental deposit and utility deposit that are getting processed by the end of the week. And then possibly some additional moving expenses. So we're chugging along, and definitely they continue to say that they are very appreciative of the program.
Okay, wonderful. Any other questions about the program? All right, let's move on to the update for the housing production plan.
Yep, that's making great progress. The housing needs assessment, as I mentioned, was in draft form. That is now done. And then we will be working toward getting a draft, I think fairly soon. They're looking to do a hybrid meeting coming up in February, I believe on the 11th. I can send out the date just so everybody knows. If you want to come, you're more than welcome to come or pop on, because it'll be hybrid. And they're going to just kind of have some comments, mostly from the advisory committee, about the kind of some different ideas and of different things that they know need to be addressed or that they've heard about from their experiences in the community. So that's where we are. We're still anticipating having a final project or final product, I'm sorry, in May. Nothing has changed about the timeline.
Okay. Any comments, questions on the housing production plan? Okay, we'll move on to number 5, the Renter's Choice Program.
So this is a program. It's not all over the country, but it is something called security deposit insurance. It is an option of something that you can just make a statement that, we support the youth in this town. We'd like it to be considered in the event that the town funds for the RAP program run out and we do not have the capacity to have another grant or program fill that coffer. Then it's another alternative to allow people, they do have to go through there's an application process, so not everybody would get approved, but the way it works is similar to renter's insurance. So you would just pay for the life of your lease, a fee, and it varies depending on, I think, the size of the unit and a number of other application factors. It's just something to consider. It's an existing program. There are other cities that have adopted it as a request for landlords or property management companies or larger developers to consider for tenants. So that way, if they can't afford to do that large upfront fee, they are able to do a small monthly amount, and it wouldn't, then the onus no longer falls on the landlord for managing that monthly fee. It actually falls on the tenant and then the insurance company that they're working with. It also allows the landlord to file a claim to address whatever concerns happen after and not have to manage the security deposit and that separate account that has to be interest bearing per state law.
So is this town by town? So the town votes and then forces the landlords to have to accept this program?
So there are other places in the country where they have forced landlords. I don't know that that's a path anybody would want to take, but it is it could be at this point just a suggestion or something that we encourage, especially with larger developments that are having inclusionary zoning or have units that are going to be on the SHI, whether it's the LAP or the LAU, as an alternative, because again, we don't know how long the RAP program will stay in. And if one of these like 200 Quanah Pallet is in the next couple of weeks will be starting to market, they could potentially eat up all of the funds. And as an alternative, they do not have a plan to have rental deposit insurance at this point. And we can't force them because the agreement's already been in place. But as for the future, it could be something that we encourage as part of our, because there's a whole application, there's back and forth negotiations when we go through this whole contract, and it is something that a stance that the Affordable Housing Trust could take is that they want to encourage moving forward that developers have this as an option available.
Okay, and are we then reliant on the developers to choose the insurance company? Or do we?
No, no, we wouldn't be involved in it other than saying that this is a preference as we're going through creating that LAU agreement or LAP, whatever, for the SHI units. The insurance company, there are a number of different companies that exist. So it would be, the onus would be on the developer to, if there are a number of specific companies they want to work with, or the renter to pick a number of different companies.
Okay, because I heard one of the downsides of this is, so I pay my insurance to the insurance company, and then the landlord has a claim. The insurance company's turned around and gone after the tenant again, even though they've paid the insurance. So that's been a problem with some of the insurance companies that are using this rental choice.
Okay.
That's why I was wondering about is there some way that we're controlling or whatever who the insurance company is?
And I don't think we can do that as
Okay.
a municipality. I think we can put in a preference that, or if you want to have this as a kind of a position moving forward, that whatever company we're working with is, or whatever company a developer chooses to work with is aiming to create a good situation for everybody involved, and looks at various companies and maybe offers a variety of different ones. There's obviously a variety of different ways you could phrase this. It's the potential kind of backup should we not be able to continue to refill that RAP program to at least address some part of it.
Okay. All right. Well, my suggestion is I did do a little bit of research on it before this meeting, but because I don't know, does everybody here know what that is? Okay. So what I would suggest is that by the next meeting, we can give you a little write-up of what the Renter's Choice program is, some of the pros and cons of it. I didn't realize, so Sam, anybody who's already been building in Wakefield now wouldn't have to, we can encourage them to be part of this program, but they wouldn't be required to. But there's a possibility with new permits or whatever that are being given that we could say you have to use this. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can take all the way up from a preference all the way up to a mandate. I wouldn't encourage a mandate. I would encourage, like, I would recommend a strong preference towards that, with at least with the affordable units. But again, it's up to the discretion of the board. And I see Mike has his hand up. I don't know if you can see that on your screen.
Yep, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, just curious, Sam, what is being insured? Is it first class security? Is it the entire 12-month term on a lease for the rent itself? What's actually being insured?
Sure. So I'm sorry, I could have sent the right up to everybody. It's just my internet's been off and on, down all day. So because I put all of this together for all of you. So the way it works is that for the life of the lease, that there is deposit insurance. It is insuring the unit, just covering the same type of thing that a security deposit would be. It's not first and last. It can't be used for rent. It would be used for damage beyond basic wear and tear to the unit. Like if a tenant punched a hole in the wall, it would be used to remedy and repair something like that.
So they would still pay the security deposit and they would pay insurance, or does it eliminate the security deposit?
There wouldn't be a security deposit. It would only be, it could be potentially first and last still, but it at least wouldn't be that security deposit portion.
Just general thoughts. It sounds like a lot of work for a little bit of benefit. To me, anyway.
Yeah, who administers it, Sam?
There are insurance companies. There are a number of different companies.
So there'd be no burden on the town to, yeah.
The only burden on the town would be the kind of negotiations with the developer while they're working on the 40B or LAU or LAP, the SHI, the affordable housing, the formal affordable housing units. And in that period, that would be the only kind of onus that would be on the town.
Do you have any idea of what that monthly payment would look like? You know, if it was like
it's $10 to $50.
$10 to $50.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what happens if they stop paying it? Do they get evicted?
I don't know. There would have to be a clause in someone's lease agreement on how to handle that situation.
That's interesting.
I'm feeling naive, but I don't understand the benefit of the town getting involved in any way with this at all. So maybe I just need to see the write-up, Sam, because I'm not getting how, you know, we as a town are helping.
Yeah, well, so right now there's no programs, there's no state programs, and Maureen, correct me if I'm wrong, to cover the rental deposit, and no federal programs that cover that. That's part of what the Wakefield Renters Assistance Program, it's the big gap that it's filling right now. And it's proven itself to be very helpful. In the event, or at the point when, especially when we run out of money, if we don't go after another grant to refill the coffers, and we very well may, but again, there's so much up in the air with grants. You cannot count on that, at least not now. So in the event that we no longer are able to do that, another way to make rental deposits and move-ins more affordable and accessible versus having millions of dollars that are sitting in these interest-bearing accounts that landlords have to manage. They have to set technically by law, and I'm sure most of them don't, but that's a different conversation. A landlord is supposed to set up an individual account for their tenant for every security deposit that they take in. It is supposed to be an interest-bearing account. It's supposed to be set up in the, like I said, in the tenant's name. They're supposed to be given that information the day that they sign all of their paperwork, and the account gets set up, and they have to make sure that the tenant has that information in case something happens to the landlord. Most don't do this, which is an entirely different conversation. If tenants knew the rights that they have, they can actually go after their landlords and get up to three times, I think it is, their security deposit. But right now, the way it's set up in Massachusetts, that's pretty much your only option. There's been talk, I believe, about having a flat fee, but whether or not that's gone through the whole system or is just kind of sitting there, I haven't heard anything since. So a way that you can make these units more accessible, because not everybody has $5,000 to $10,000 laying around for this security deposit, that you would create or encourage these developers or mandate them, again, whatever the board would like to put forward, especially for the affordable units, to allow somebody to opt in and get their own rental insurance, rental deposit insurance. So again, the fee is for most of them is $10 to $50 a month. And it would cover any damage that happens to the unit. Some people prefer to put down a security deposit because then they get all that money back. Some people would prefer to do the rental insurance, and some people don't have a choice because they don't have the money. And the option that this gives is, in light of REP having no more funds, these people are able to move into a unit without having to make some sort of agreement with the landlord that they may or may not be able to pay, because a lot of them, it's going to be hundreds of dollars a month that they're paying towards this rental deposit, and that may or may not work for their budget, especially if they have a housing choice voucher or if they're in some of these affordable units. That $200 to $500 that I've heard from a lot of people that they're paying a month is not feasible. So this would allow an option for them to still be able to move in without the town having to take onus, without the developer having to take responsibility for continuously collecting that, and putting everybody in kind of a rough situation if they do decide to make some sort of agreement. It pulls all of that kind of messiness out of it and puts it with a company that just this is all they do. It's all that they manage. They manage these rental deposit kind of insurance, and then things are covered. And the landlord can make a claim. They can even make a claim on some of them while the tenant is still there. So if they know that there's damage, they know they have to replace the carpet because, I don't know, somebody got a dog and ripped a hole in it, then they know that they can at least start to reach out on that. And they're not now having to spend their own money and stay on top of their tenant for giving back their security deposit or making their payments towards it. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's like simple, but it does offer another avenue for the rental deposit component.
One of the things I can do too before the next meeting, because we can bring this up again, is I can talk to Hal Keen. They're a pretty big property management company that's out there, and see what their thoughts are, like what if they've used it at all, what their thoughts are, what they've run into. Like, this is as more from the project management or property management company, but it would give us more insight to like I said, if anybody else is using it out there. I can also talk to some of the other like Chelmsford's Housing Authority to see if they've got anything in place too.
Yeah, I don't know how much traction has been made with the kind of program, a renter's choice type thing. In Boston, I know there are other places where they've mandated it to be an option in the country, and I could always potentially reach out, or if you have any that you know that are in Boston and are also in some of these other places, I can email you the list. I think you probably could look it up if you wanted to, but I can always email it out as part of the write-up.
Okay.
And that way everybody knows.
Sam, who would do the ultimate outreach, assuming this was a good idea and assuming the trust members thought it was a good idea? You know, anybody can suggest anything to anybody, I guess, anytime. But, you know, the way it's been done in other communities, would it be our town council ultimately that would be, you know, the outreach? Would it come from the housing trust? How do you see that, or how have you seen that in other communities, if you have?
Yeah, so in some communities they've done it again as a preference, not a mandate. The ones that have done it as through a kind of a mandate, or I don't even know, but they do an act, a city council. And so it's a statement, it's a position. I'd have to look up the exact terminology of what some of these others have used. But I believe they've made actual ordinances that mandate this in their municipalities. Again, my recommendation is just to state it as a very strong preference. And then when we are going through working with a developer on building up all of the LAU packet and talking about the feasibility and the market study and all these conversations, that's in that process of going through all of that, that's where it would get brought up by the town. And again, the trust could release a statement. It can be on their website. There are a variety of different ways to do it, but I'm happy to share, again, in the write-up, not just other municipalities and but just also how they've done it. If they've done like an ordinance and it's mandated, or if it's just a preference or / recommendation, I can include that in the write-up.
Okay, well, we'll leave this, it's good information. We'll put this on the agenda for the next meeting, and we'll have more information disseminated and see where it goes from there. Any other questions? Okay, let's go on to the item 6, Herd School funding and feasibility study.
Yeah, so the other big thing that I've been working on, let me grab if I can get this to open. The other big thing I was working on was looking up the previous work that had been done to reach out to the community on the Herd School. And that was done in 2016 and 2017, and there were a whole host of ideas that the community had given some feedback on. But I think the one that had kind of stood out both to the town and a little bit to the public was housing, although housing had some mixed concerns from the public, mostly with density and end use and how many units and what's being demolished and whatnot. So I also reached out to Lynn Sweet of LDS Consulting to ask for some recommendations on if we were to move forward with any component of the Herd School being turned into some level of affordable housing. Who would I talk to? So I have had some meetings with Mass Development. I've gone over lots of different questions, and they are an organization that is able to help us put kind of a very basic feasibility study together, so we could move forward with redeveloping the property. Part of what is the catalyst for this conversation is in the Affordable Homes Act, the bond bill portion of it. There was $1 million set aside for the Herd School through the Wakefield Housing Authority to develop it into housing for people with disabilities. I still need to get information from their office and coordinate with Maureen on that. But before we start going too far down that path, one of the things that was brought up to me is we do need to have a plan. You can coordinate with the senator's office as much as you want, but in asking for that money, if we do want to move forward with it, it's best if you have an actual plan. So one, we can go through the one-stop grant round and we can ask for grant money to do a feasibility study. We may or may not get it, and the feasibility study wouldn't be done until 2027. I'm sorry, 2026. I don't know why I keep skipping over 2026. So it won't be done until next year when those funds get dispersed. So we also have the option, because you have over $700,000 in your general fund, to fund it yourself. It is $50,000 to $75,000, depending on how large you want the scope to be. It would take about a month if we chose to work through Mass Development. We don't have to put an RFP out. They would be able to help us with collecting data, working on the analysis, getting community engagement, have some potential preliminary plans and layouts. We have very basic CAD drawings from 2016, and they can at least give us a starting point. But we will be hopefully from this project, whether again we go after a grant for it or we choose to spend the existing funds that y'all have, or you choose, not me, but the goal would be to have consensus on what to do. So if we do affordable housing, how many units? Would there be a partial demolition, or would you just use the existing structure? Is there an addition? What type of age range, if there's any age limitations? And then, see here, steps to actually completing those various different project options. And then also we'd want to confirm that there's a demonstrated need for those various types. So let's say with senior housing, there's not a lot of senior housing. It's senior housing for people with disabilities. So if that's what if you went forward and if this is what the results boiled down to, you would be, of course, wanting to confirm that there is truly a need for it, not just the assumption of that. And so if you have a study and it boils down and shows you all of that, then you have a lot more information and a lot more kind of oomph behind your goal to go after that bond money. That way we have something substantive versus, yeah, we just like to do something, but there's no plan and we don't really know what we're doing. We likely won't have quite as much traction. So there's two parts. One is if you want to look at going after the bond money and having me start to coordinate with the housing authority on what that all might entail. And then two, if you would like to coordinate with mass development and either go after grant funding to have them support a feasibility study for this, or if you would like to spend $50,000 to $75,000 of your own existing coffers on getting that groundwork for affordable housing at the Hurd School.
And just to clarify, the bond money could potentially be a source for the study itself?
No,
it's
the bond
for the project itself.
It's for the redevelopment of the property. So it would be funding that would be tacked on to whatever the end product.
So the funding, if we were doing a study, it would be likely either paying it ourselves or going for a one-stop grant.
Correct. Yeah. And the study itself, mass development anticipates it would take 4 to 6 months, depending on how involved the scope is. Because if you do 50, it's obviously there would be a much smaller scope. If you do the 75, then you'd get the full range and be able to do a lot more kind of, I don't know, a larger scope, more inclusive, and so it might take a little bit longer, but would give us a really great kind of plan. I mean, really a plan to be able to move forward with an RFP and have some traction on an actual project.
Gail, can I ask, is that really within the purview of this committee to even, move ahead and make a recommendation? I mean, I would think this is something that would come up from the town administrator / town council. I just don't understand what the role of this committee would be in that. Obviously, all of us walked through the Hurd School over a year ago with Steve. I mean, I'm a little confused as to what, role we play in any of this discussion.
Yes, I agree with you, Bill. I don't know if this falls under our purview. If the town wants to figure out what to do with that building, the town should figure out what to do with that building. I mean, we would be going through this feasibility study for housing, and then all of a sudden we would have to be dealing with the neighbors. So we spend $75,000 and neighbors say no, and we can't get any traction with the town to do anything. That would kind of be, what would be the purpose of that?
Sam, is there something I'm missing in what I'm saying?
Yes.
Do you
yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So I've been directed by the town administrator to make progress on converting the herd into housing, affordable housing in some capacity. How that happens, whether it's like a 40B, like partial affordable, whether it's owned by the housing authority or we sell off the property, there's so many different ways to do this. And because we don't, how can I phrase this? Well, it's been, gosh, almost 10 years since the last community engagement was done. And there will always be concerns with any project with abutters, but ultimately there's still something that some progress that has been requested to be made on this, and a plan will be going forward at some point.
Okay, so is this, in terms of you talking to us about it, is this informative as opposed to actionable from any, from this group?
Excuse me.
Does that make sense what I'm asking you? I mean, are
Yeah,
you just informing us of, some housing related affordable, possibly affordable housing that you're pursuing, or?
well, there are, so the money needs to be spent. The money has to be spent for a feasibility study. That's step one. We can't go anywhere without this study.
No, that's
So-
not true. That's not true, Sam. We just put an RFP out to,
We
all
don't know. We don't know what we're going to do for an RFP. We wouldn't even know what to include in it. There's so much that came back from the previous, and the project was stopped halfway through. We don't have enough of information or clarity. We don't know if there's just so much we don't know.
And back in those days, there was nobody in your role either to really.
And there was a town planner until 2020.
Okay.
And so he was coordinating all of this, but they had only gotten so far again on that project. And then I know that there was some pushback. And again, the notes I have is that the community was concerned with more higher density. So there's a couple different avenues of even affordable assisted living facilities. There's facilities for people with disabilities, such as like developmental disabilities, where there's kind of communal living. There's a whole host of ways that this can be done. That's why sticking an RFP out when we don't know how, like, if there's one avenue that's going to financially set us up, or set the project up better. Like if you're looking at it from a historic angle, if that $1 million tax credit, just I'm throwing out a number, if that tax credit from the historic program, if it's still around, makes a difference for this particular project, then that's something that we would need to know, and that would be a different RFP versus one to keep it at an affordable, demolish half the building, all you need to do is keep a portion of it. So, and we're trying to be realistic, trying to manage the RFP of a redevelopment and another redevelopment committee potentially with all of the community engagement. We really need to be able to have somebody coming in to manage it. So in just our current bandwidth of what we're capable of doing, and mass development would be helping to do that. So the choice is from the town administrators. We have, after I spoke with him, we have two paths. The trust is involved. I mean, this is literally like the mission and goal of the trust is to help with affordable housing. So the funds you have go towards affordable housing. Your choice right now is to say, no, we don't want to put $50,000 to $75,000 towards affordable housing, or we do. That's what this comes down to.
No. You're specifying the herd school.
Correct.
It's not that we want to spend 75,000. Let's go to Butler. Let's go look at Butler.
Butler can't be touched until it is remediated, which will be at least a year or two out.
We can save our money for Butler. You're telling us we're for affordable housing, but it doesn't have to be the herd school.
Correct. It doesn't have to be, but again, the direction I got was right now, it's either I have to go after a one-stop grant, which will delay the project at least a year, or we can look at going through and utilizing funding to help support that.
Okay, you have your marching orders. I mean, you work for the town administrator, he's setting your direction, so. Okay,
Yeah, so
Is
go ahead,
Is Mass
sorry.
Development able to put together a proposal for us so we have something in writing to look at to see what exactly they would be providing?
I can
For the-
provide some samples of previous proposals. They wouldn't like work on a scope with us without having some sort of commitment, that because they're not going to put, that's hours of negotiation back and forth and scope. But they are able, I mean, they said that that'll take a month just to negotiate that back and forth. But they do have a number I can send. I have 3 different scopes that they've worked on previously for putting together projects for different municipalities that I'm happy to forward along.
Sam,
Yeah.
I've got a number of concerns at the moment. I mean, I saw Steve today and I asked him what this agenda item was about because I really didn't have anything in my email. And I didn't get the impression that he was all that familiar with it. So what I need to find out from Steve is, where does he see this going? I think there's a couple of problems I would have as one member of this trust. First of all, I don't think Butler should take a year because it's not what I've heard from the town engineer over and over and over again, that they could start that remediation and get it done in the winter and or this spring. So I'm more inclined to think that the money of this trust is better spent in Butler. However, I think we're also putting the cart before the horse. I understand you would like to have a plan to bring to people, but the problem with people is that they want to be part of the plan. So I think that we need to get out there and do outreach prior to saying, oh, we're going to serve this up to the community and say this is a great thing. I also don't like the idea. I'm very skeptical about grants. I'm very skeptical that this $1 million bond money is going to come out in our favor, if ever. I'm skeptical about, paying somebody up front for something that we don't know, as Gail indicated, that this is where we're going to wind up going or where the town's going to wind up going. I really think I've thought over time that Steve was more of the opinion that Butler would be the place to try to do true affordable, and that this, building would more likely be more in terms of the 18%, to a developer where we get a couple of units out of it. Now, if all that's changed, I'm fine with discussing it, but I haven't heard that from him, and I'm also very, very hesitant to start speaking for the town council either, because I don't.
Sure.
So I mean, it seems to me that there are a lot of unanswered questions here at the moment in terms of the direction that you're telling me that Steve is telling you that this is where we're going next. It's honestly, the first I've heard of it, and I saw him today. So I think we're going to clear a few things up.
Sure. It's been the action item I've been charged with for this year. Also,
can I ask you, Sam, too? Like, it seems like there was some concern about, what was happened when we talked to the neighbors back in 2016 and 17. Is there any more push from neighbors for either place that they are tired of looking at the buildings and they want to see something happen?
No, I haven't had any. I've had a couple of questions, not a ton, about if there is going to be a redevelopment or if there's something going on. And
I live in some proximity. I think the neighbors are fine with it being just the way it is.
Oh, okay. I just don't know, I
No,
don't know what the feeling
that's
is.
just my reaction living, a block and a half away, because whatever happens there, people aren't going to like it.
Yeah.
No.
the other kind of thing about I also haven't had people reach out specifically about Butler. I haven't had any, just as an FYI, I haven't had members of the public asking, aside from with MBTA communities, we had some comments here and there. What about the Herd School or what about Butler? But nothing with somebody just contacting me explicitly on that.
I don't
just
think
curious.
I don't think you'll hear anything on Butler until it becomes more widely known that at some point after the remediation, there may be buildable land there, and what is the town to do with it? Obviously, all the neighbors, and especially abutting neighbors in that neighborhood, as well as, the Herd School. I've walked the streets occasionally on the Herd School and just talked to people, and obviously they'd love to see something. Some people would love to see senior housing there. I've had people say we should knock it down and make a pocket park. I mean, you're going to get all kinds of opinions from all kinds of people, but if you don't bring that out before we actually start the planning, I think there's a danger there,
Sure.
because they will then be saying, oh, this is the town trying to tell us what the town wants to do, as opposed to listening to the neighbors. And I've discussed this with Steve. I've said, we're busy enough and we're in the middle of budget season, but if you think we should get out there and start talking to folks, trust members could go, these town council members could go, we could hold some forums and really just get that process started. I think this is cart before the horse.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Mike. I don't know if I don't believe that the Herd School is a good place to put the fund's money right now. I mean, if a developer comes in, if we were to just put it out there and say, hey, the LIHTC developers want to come out here and build something, and they were looking for some soft financing, okay, then we could put the money towards soft financing, but not to a feasibility study. You got to unmute, Bill.
Yeah, I just want to be careful here with Sam. We're not shooting the messenger here. You're telling
Yeah,
us.
we're not, yeah.
Yeah, please don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah.
You're doing what you've been.
I'm not.
do-
It's fine.
Okay, you're
Just
being
as an
told-
aside, Butler will not be looked at until probably 26 or 27, just so you know. I've had multiple conversations with Bill Renault about the timeline of when we'd be looking at grants or even opening that up. And while the remediation could get started, the project, I just literally spoke with him about it a couple hours ago. The project needs to be remediated first, then the property will need to be subdivided, and then we will need to have some sort of conversation from there about what the potential is. Whether or not that is all affordable housing is an entirely separate part.
Well, that's true, but we did also meet with the Habitat for Humanity, and it sounded rather promising to me that we might be able to do something in the future with them in terms of a partnership with a much lower cost structure. I think what we've talked about in the past year, and I've been pretty clear about my own personal opinion about it, and I know that Gail has also talked about the cost structure in the herd. It's very expensive per unit. So, it's without a partnership, I wonder, let's say we got some kind of a grant to participate. How much would that, how would we still even be able to make it affordable? I think that remains to be seen in the herd.
I've heard enough, Mr. Chairperson.
Yeah, I was gonna say, any other comments on this?
No, appreciate Sam listening to,
Yeah, sorry
picking
about,
up.
yeah, we're not picking on you, Sam, absolutely, you do a great job. We didn't get any minutes, did we? So we're gonna move on to 7. We didn't get any minutes. Did we?
I thought, did I
No.
not send out the
I
December
didn't.
11th?
I,
Oh gosh,
I-
I'm so sorry. I had a lot of different little moving parts with trying to deal with a lot of housing production stuff. So I will end the ADUs, which there will be a public meeting coming up shortly for the planning board, if you want to know anything about ADUs in February. But so I guess you'll have to address that at the next meeting then.
Yeah.
Do you have the updated agenda with the ARPA quarterly report as item 7?
oh, no,
Okay.
this is an old one. I guess
Yeah. that was done on, I think, Tuesday at the end of the day. My apologies. I realized I didn't send it out. So just a quick thing, if I may share.
Mhm.
The chair. Okay, so
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Steve has asked, he said for the memorandum of understanding, we have to have a quarterly report to give an update that needs to be approved. Let's see here. It's necessary according to the rules. We just have to give an update of the funds that have been spent each quarter. So there's a quarterly accounting report as best practices. So I think Gail will have to just coordinate with getting that signed. Did we just pull the numbers from accounting?
Oh, okay. You just need me to come in and sign them.
I believe so, yes. But
Okay.
we just kind of want to let everybody know what that is, and that'll be released.
You don't need a board vote or anything to approve the reports or?
No, we don't have an actual report yet.
Okay.
Steve hasn't given me the report yet.
Okay.
I believe it's just pulling the numbers. If there's anything that does need to come back, we can always discuss it at the next meeting.
I think it would be good if we were able. It would be better to see it because Steve said that the town would be pulling it together for us, but it would be good to try to get that to the town council as soon as we could, because we're supposed to do this quarterly. So if there's a way that we could vote to authorize Gail to sign the agreement and forward it to the town council without our actually laying eyes on it. I mean, as long as it's got the numbers, Sam, that you had mentioned, the 18,000 and change. It's really not anything any of us is generating anyway, but maybe we could just, whether we vote or not, have an understanding that we can just have Gail sign it and send it to the town council so that we meet our requirement. Not that anybody's going to, be all upset with us if we don't. It's just trying to move things along.
Mhm.
Anybody have any thoughts on that? I mean,
I
do we
think
have?
it's a good idea to get a paper report, quarterly. And it never hurts to have a board vote that, or some kind of acknowledgement in the minutes that we received it and reviewed it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll kick it over to our next meeting then.
Yeah,
Okay.
keep it on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Next meeting date, February, could we look at February 19th, maybe? That's another Wednesday.
That is school vacation week. I will not be available. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're
I could
allowed
do
to not be available.
I could do the 12th.
Oh, that's vacation week.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
yes.
it's vacation week.
Uh,
The 12th or the 26th then.
Yeah, I'm not around the 26th, but I don't have to be here, because I'm gonna be in Columbia if Trump doesn't shut it down and I won't be able to go. So 12th, maybe? Anybody?
Well, will we have that much to talk about in 2 weeks?
Pretty soon.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's gonna be 2 weeks. Okay, so we can skip February altogether and look.
Well,
out
I
on-
would encourage us to, especially if you want to review that quarterly report, I would encourage you to meet to discuss that. I will also be able to send out the Renter's Choice Program information and give
As
you an
long as we
update
have-
on that.
As long as we have stuff to do.
It would be a brief meeting.
Okay,
Okay, that's
Cool.
fine. So maybe a brief meeting on the 12th, and then we can kick it down to like third week in March then. Does that work?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I'll just pencil that in and so Sam can send out a,
Yep, I'll handle
Email
getting all of that
and-
out. Oh, wait, hold on. The 12th might be. The 12th, I think, is actually the housing production plan meeting.
oh,
Hold on for just a second. I'm glad I thought of that before. Yes, it is on the February 12th. So I guess we can't, we would have to shift it to another night, like a Thursday night or something. Or wait until March, but I don't know if you want, I don't know if we can wait that long for a quarterly report.
what about?
well,
what
why
about-
don't we pencil in then the 13th, because then it should be short meeting. Well, we can just make it a short meeting to just go over.
I can't do that. I have a finance committee meeting, so it doesn't matter, but I'm not available. But that's okay. Go do it without me. You're not gonna get everybody, so. I'm just letting you know I can't do that.
Well, Sam, why don't we just send out an email to see about the 11th, 13th, or 14th? I know, hate to do the 14th, hate to do Fridays, but 11 or 13 and see how many people we can get.
Yeah, I can't do the 11th, so it'll have to be the 13th, or we would, I mean, but you're gone that entire last week.
Oh, yeah, I'm not. I
Okay.
leave the 22nd. I'm not back until like March 12th.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll send around an email then about February 13th, just to try to see if we can get everybody on that time. We could also potentially do it during the day, if that's an option for anybody, versus an evening meeting, to do like just a brief review of the minutes and the ARPA report and make a very abbreviated agenda.
I could do it like at 5, because my meeting is at 6. Again, just being, talking about my.
Yeah, I could definitely do 5 too.
Mhm.
I mean, I could do it earlier, make it work.
It could.
All right, why don't we throw that out there too?
5
Okay.
to 5 to 5:30 then, Sam, on the.
Yeah. Well, if not, Bill, you can always start and pop off if you needed to.
Yep.
Okay, I will
Okay.
email that around to confirm with everybody, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Okay, so we kind of went through okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second,
Do I have to go around?
No,
Okay,
Technically, yes, you have to do a
well,
verbal roll
Oh.
call vote,
would you have to
because
do a roll call for an adjournment?
you have to do roll call for any vote.
jeez, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
it's for the remote meetings.
I'll go through this. Mike.
I say we adjourn.
Maureen,
Yes.
Bill,
Absolutely.
Charlie,
Yes.
yeah, Gail, yes, Sam.
I don't vote.
Don't
I will
vote.
take,
Okay,
I will
don't
take
vote.
notes.
All right, so we'll get an email out, and thank you everybody else for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
All
Sam.
right.
All right,
Okay.
have a
Good
good
night.
evening.